Trump flexed his muscle in his CPAC speech, and he effectively declared war on the Republicans who don't support him.
The Democrats don't have grandstanders like Mitt Romney, Little Ben Sass, Richard Burr, Bill Cassidy, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Pat Toomey. And in the House, Tom Rice, South Carolina, Adam Kinzinger, Dan Newhouse, Anthony Gonzalez, that's another beauty, Fred Upton, Jamie Herrera Butler, Peter Meyer, John Katko, David Valadeo, and of course the warmonger, a person that loves seeing our troops fighting, Liz Cheney. How about that? The good news is in her state, she's been censured, and in her state, her poll numbers have dropped faster than any human being I've ever seen. So hopefully they'll get rid of her with the next election. Get rid of them all. Democrats are vicious. Remember this, it's true. Democrats are vicious. He said evil. Well, there is evil there. But they're vicious, they're smart, and they do one thing. Got to hand it to them. They always stick together. You don't have Mitt Romneys in the group. They always stick together. Fortunately, for the Republican Party, the Democrats have horrible policies like open borders, sanctuary cities, defunding the police, and the ridiculous, totally ridiculous, Green New Deal. So they stick together, they're smart, they're vicious, they got everything going, but their policies are no good. So hence we have, congratulations, the Republican Party.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. The Republican Party, big-time policy wonks, care deeply about that sort of stuff. Even his description of the Democratic Party there flips reality on its head. He says they're vicious, smart, and they always stick together. They're not at all vicious. They're pathetically weak. They're really not smart either, I would say. And they definitely don't stick together. There's a giant Democratic civil war going on between the left and the corporatists. Did you not see the 2016 and 2020 primaries and the deep divisions between the Bernie Sanders base and the corporatists and the people who support more, right-leaning Democrats? Did you not? I mean, it's just, he's really flipping reality on its head here because, at least until recently, the Republicans have sort of stuck together as one big block. And it's the Democrats who are always at each other's throats. The good news is, with Trump declaring war here on other Republicans, that there is going to be a Republican civil war as well. The only downside is I think Trump is going to overwhelmingly win that civil war. So, what he does is he lists his enemies. Mitt Romney, Ben Sass, Richard Burr. I didn't get all of them, but I jotted down a bunch of them. Lisa Murkowski, Pat Toomey, Adam Kinzinger, Dan Newhouse. And then he says the warmonger Liz Cheney. Hilarious that Trump's calling anybody a warmonger because his record is that of a warmonger. He really just continued establishment policies on most issues involving foreign policy. And he's acting like, he was some sort of dove. Are you kidding me? It's not true at all. You kept Iraq going. You kept Afghanistan going. You massively increased the drone war. You escalated with Iran, sanctioning medicine and food and whatnot from going in there. You assassinated General Soleimani, which nearly sparked another giant war. So the idea that, Liz Cheney's a warmonger, yeah, I'll grant you that she's perhaps more of a warmonger than Trump, but Trump is clearly a warmonger, so it's hilarious that he's calling her out on those terms. Listen, it's interesting that the anti-Trump establishment Republicans, their differences really come down to this. They hate his lack of decorum. They hate his lack of civility. They hated his mean tweets. They hate that Trump has made it so Republicans lost the suburbs. They hate that. They hate that. They hate that. And the only substantive difference is that they really were against that attempted insurrection because they felt like now we're the target of the Trump mob's ire, and they're not comfortable with that at all. Liz Cheney does not like that at all. When the peasants are knocking down her door, she's terrified. But that's the extent of their differences. Again, like I said, when it comes to deregulation, same page. When it comes to tax cuts for the wealthy, same page. When it comes to endless wars, same page. The list goes on and on. Policy-wise, they love the guy. So it's really more of a cultural difference than anything else. And I think that says a lot. Culturally speaking, Trump throws more red meat to the base. And he's willing to fight that culture war and be unapologetic on the side of the far right. Whereas a lot of the other Republicans think that's too divisive and is going to doom them to perpetual losses. And they might be right about that. They might be right. But this is Trump declaring war on Republicans who dissented from him. He's the leader, he's the boss, he's the daddy, and you're going to shut up and fall in line. That's what he's doing here. That's what he's doing. And it just so happens in the process, he says ridiculous things about the Democrats. Like, they're vicious, smart, and they always stick together. And there's not, by the way, not a single elected Democrat in D.C. supports open borders. Not a single one, but they just make it up. Oh, yeah, they're running on open borders. No, they're not. Nobody's running on open borders. Yeah, they're running on, like, defund the police or something. How many lawmakers in D.C. are actually for, quote-unquote, defunding the police? Is it one? Cori Bush? And by the way, they have a caricatured version of what that means to defund the police. Like, what the actual people advocating for it are in favor of is, like, reduce police budgets, take that money, and put it into, like, mental health professionals who can answer some of these calls, as opposed to somebody showing up with a gun when a gun's not needed. That's what defund the police means. But they put, like, the villainous spin on it, like, woo, this is scary and terrible. And they act like the entire Democratic Party believes it when it's, like, tiny, tiny number that do. So they caricature and straw man. And then, of course, they mock the Green New Deal, which is hilarious because, again, the Green New Deal, emphasis on the New Deal part of it, which would create hundreds of thousands or even millions of jobs and make us the dominant force in the world when it comes to the future of energy production. So that's a wonderful policy. That's a superb policy. We should go down that road, but he's stuck in his own little bubble and acting like, it's crazy or whatever. So, and by the way, the idea that Republicans, we're the party of good policies, you know what I'm saying? You guys have only had one set of horrendous policies since, like, the early 1900s. It's always the same. It's always cut taxes for the wealthy and deregulate. That's all you got. And certainly, there was a time when there were some Republicans who were more isolationist, but now even the ones who use the non-interventionist rhetoric on foreign policy still end up being for wars. So, that's bullshit too. It's pro-war, pro-deregulation, pro-tax cuts for the wealthy. That's all they believe in. And leaning into the culture war in stupid ways and, virtue signaling about how much you believe in the Bible and believe in the flag, which is just the dumbest bullshit I've ever heard in my life. But here you have it. Donald Trump declaring war on the Republicans who don't fall in line and don't bend the knee and kiss his ring.